YouTube world? It's your boy, Nytmare 10, once again back on the YWC Football Talk podcast, and I cannot wait to get into a lot of NFL football, baby. Let's do this. Griff, thank you for having me again.
Episode number 266, folks, starting off with a bang. This all started to come together about 2 months ago because, shout out to you, Randy, who said, hey, you got to get Nytmare 10 back on the pod. It has been a while. There's been a lot of guests come and go, but you know what? You got to respect your OGs, and that's what Phil is doing here. We have a lot of NFL to talk about. It is Friday when we're recording, so it is Victory Friday for some of us. But you know what? I want to go to college ball first to start because I haven't recorded since this, and I have one question for you. Did FSU get screwed?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I called this on Twitter. I just messaged you. I actually soon before it happened, and I was like, they're gonna put Bama in. It's 100% gonna happen. They don't want a blowout. They want a competitive game, and they don't want to leave an SEC team out. I think it's a mixture of both. I know a lot of people were talking about it being, about SEC, but I do think it's a mixture of both. They just don't want to sit there and watch the team get blown out. They've seen that too many times. So, but I'm sorry, Florida State there is no, you can't make excuses. I understand the quarterback's out. It's a team effort, right? It just does a lot to that university. I have no ties to Florida State whatsoever. But, come on. They won the big – what more can they do? If Bama is undefeated and they lose their starting quarterback, they're in the college football playoff. If Ohio State – in fact, it did happen to Ohio State. They're in. So why is Florida State not in? Because they lost their quarterback. I just don't understand that. Had they lost, okay, then they would have been out. One loss, Florida State team would have been out, but they went undefeated. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
So I look at it from a couple of perspectives. One being that if Bama was getting in, Texas 1,000% was getting in if both won their conferences, which that's what happened. Because Texas has the win over Bama, but I feel like everyone looks at Alabama from where not only is it the gold standard, shout out Ross, but when you look at Alabama, you saw the SEC commissioner last week going kind of the SEC's always there, yada, yada, yada. So I feel like there is the SEC bias. I feel like they're just kind of delivering the low blow, you're looking for the easy excuse to get out. It's kind of like when a guy gets friend zoned by a girl he really likes, where it's oh, you're a good guy, but this. It's kind of that with FSU. It's oh, you're a great team, but your starting quarterback broke his leg. It's those are outcomes you can't control. Now, obviously, Bama did their part and won the SEC championship. But Florida State, too, ran the table, went 13-0. I know Big Rat hates us talking about this right now because he's a Miami Hurricane fan. But at the same time, you have to give them their due. And even if now you have Florida State and Georgia playing in a game that no one's going to care about, and the Orange Bowl still is a game of meaning to college football. So it's just a downward trickle effect, which Georgia, look, I'm not going to write that off just because, look, they lost the game. I don't think they deserve to get in. I know everyone's saying it's about the best, but it's the best who win. But at the same time, too, with this all, it's just you got to do what's right. And I feel like a lot of the times now, in the last chance, they had to do what was right. Because, look, next year goes to 12. Because next year, when it's a battle between 12 and 13.
It's 8, right? It's not 12.
No, it's 12.
It's 12? Oh,
yeah.
My God. I thought it was 8.
I want to talk about that because I wasn't saying this. 4 was too little. It's like Goldilocks. This porridge is too cold. This porridge is too hot. This porridge is just right. 4 was not enough. 12 is way too many teams.
Way too many teams. You're going to get blowout central, man.
It's
just the facts because there's not 12 equal teams in college football, but there could be about 4 or 5, right? There could be. I know there's usually 2 really good teams and then everybody else is kind of there, but if the next step down of those 3, 4, 5, 6 teams in that area, the 3, 4, 5, and 6, they could still be competitive enough to steal one, so it's just but now we're talking I would love to see Coastal Carolina. I would go and say that I'd love to see my boys get into the college football playoff because it's 12. But if we face number 1, we most likely are going to get smashed, and it's not going to be fun. But at least the saying we made it, I guess, is that.
And the other thing too with it is a lot of these games are going to be taking place at campuses, and then eventually it trickles into bowl games. So I get why they're doing it. They're expanding it, but it's kind of like when you ask someone to do something, but they overkill it as opposed to just doing something for the sake of doing it. That's what I feel like where the committee really got it wrong with the 12 team. Because, look, I know everyone's saying, oh, it's going to give some programs exposure. You're going to get an ass whooping 9 times out of 10, and that 10th time, an 11 seed or a 12 seed may get the upset. But, if you have, Florida State going up against let's just say Liberty. I know Liberty's ranked lower, but Florida State's going to walk them. That's a thing where if you have 8, I'm curious right now, and I'm going to look up you know what?
Who would be the 12 right now? Yeah.
Yeah.
But while you're looking that up, like I think that like I just think 8 was a good number. I think once you're getting to 12, you're just getting into those teams that are just kind of be happy they got it, they made it.
So this is per Sporting News. This is what a 12-team playoff would look like. So the top 4 seeds all get a bye. But your first matchup would be Missouri against Oregon. Oregon would take care of them, no problem. Florida State versus Liberty, like I mentioned. Florida State takes care of them, no problem. Georgia versus Ole Miss. They played earlier this year, and Ole Miss got killed.
Yeah.
And then Penn State, Ohio State, like the same thing happened. Ohio State's looked really good this year, but against the top schools, they've looked bad. And then eventually, like the winner of Penn State, Ohio State would play Washington. So if we got like a Washington versus Ohio State game, that would be electric. Georgia versus Texas, same thing. And then like Alabama versus Florida State, and then there'd be like Michigan versus Oregon. So the first round, it's going to be like, because I feel like everyone's expecting like, what you see in March, where you see a Cinderella team. I doubt you're going to see that. Like where every year there's a team that comes up out of nowhere, like a St. Peter's, like a Florida Atlantic last year. You're not going to get that with this playoff. You're going to get teams that, just get whooped from jump. And that's not what we want to see. But if you had 1 versus 8 in there, hey, a matchup between a Michigan and an Oregon, that would be electric football.
And you could see, like, I feel like if a team's 8, then they deserve to be 8. They deserve to be, like, respected in a sense. I'm not saying that at 12 they don't, but, like, I just think, like, it with 6 or 8, well, 6, you have the buys or whatever. But with 8, it's like it allows that, okay, now we can let a few of those teams that would never make it in, right? Like, but with 12, like, I just feel like that's going to now put you where they're going to put too many SEC teams in or too many Big Ten teams in just because they're all ranked high. And it's like, okay, well, we already saw this. They figured this out in the regular season. So my thing is, I know college is different than NFL, but it's becoming closer and closer to the NFL, right? So, like, if this is your playoff system, then you need to be, okay, you win your conference, you're in.
Yep.
And I don't know how you rank the, like, I know there's a Power 5, so maybe you pick 3 more conferences, and then you have 4 out of, like at large, or what do you want to call it?
You probably do all your conference winners, which is like SEC, Big 10, ACC. Big 12, ACC. Pac-12 is obviously dissolved, so you don't go there anymore. So now it's like, hey, does the Mountain West get first dibs? Does the Conference USA, like, it's the MAC? How does it all work out? I think it's just honestly going to be whoever, like, the conference championship is, the winner, and then the runner-up. Like, it's kind of like, hey, you're in the conference championship, you're kind of playing for, like, home field advantage. So that's all that is. But moving on now to a more important subject. Obviously, look, you and I haven't spoken in a while, so we haven't talked a lot about what's going on in Foxborough this year. I'm here to say this right now. I know there's a lot of fans that are conflicted. I had someone text me about it, just being like, hey, like, I don't know how to feel about the win. And I'm like, you know what? It's a football game. At the end of the day, you celebrate the wins, you dissect the losses, and you know what? It doesn't hurt the draft stock at the moment. And now we know, look, who to start the rest of the year. And also, too, it's that, like, ground now where you know, hey, play the season out strong, and we march on to next season. But for now, enjoy Victory Friday, Patriots Nation.
I'm going to be honest. When we're talking about in the moment, we're in the season.
Yeah.
I don't know what I can say on here, but F the draft. Yeah. I don't care about the draft right now. Like, yeah, when the season's done, okay, this was our ranking. Okay, now what can we get with this ranking? That's how I feel. Like, seeing a team just flat out get destroyed every week is not fun. I don't care. Like, I understand that, like, 3 more wins, what that does to our draft stock, I don't care. What that does to our team, though, is it's a team that's battling and showing a heart with all the things going on with it. Injuries, also, just lack of skill in certain areas, too. Like, to see a win like that, like, I'm impressed by it. I'm happy about it. I'm not worried about, that maybe we won't make it. I mean, I've seen Jet fans, Danny, shout out Danny, going out there. Pats are stupid. I can't believe they won, like, or whatever it was he said. And I'm like, look, this, like, you don't want, there's, like, yes, you want to get your star quarterback and all that, but the Patriots aren't just, in my opinion, and you can agree or disagree, Griff, aren't just a quarterback away from just being good again. Like, they might be like an elite quarterback away, but there's no guarantee that you're going to get that elite quarterback. I know there's top guys like Drake May and Caleb Williams, but until I see them on the field and winning in New England, I'm not gonna just assume they're gonna take us to the promised land right away. Like, we have a lot of other pieces that we need, and they need to get healthy.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you too. Like defense is pretty solid. They just need to shore up the pass rush because they've seen that all year where the pass rush has not been there ever since Matthew Judon went down. But then it's offense. That's the thing. The defense is holding its own, but I've seen this analogy and I love the quote that the offense is a bunch of clowns driving the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, where it's just it's not going anywhere. So you have to improve the offensive line. You have to get a wide receiver one. You have to shore up your tight end core. You have to running back's a huge question mark now, which we'll see where that goes. But no, I've always said this, where next year it's not about making playoffs. It's just about being that competitive team like we saw in 22 where, hey, you steal a couple, not even stealing games. You just, you win some games that you should win. Kind of like how this year they let the Giants game, the Commanders game, let those games get by them. Like, those are games that they should have won. So if they can win those games, it's kind of, hey, right now 3-10, that's 5-8. Or even if you get to another one, that's 6-7, that's 7-5. You're somewhere in that territory. As long as they're a team that's in the hunt next year, I'm completely okay with it. I'm looking towards 2025 and 2026. Like, even when I say stuff about like draft stock after like the Chargers loss, and I'm just another example of a game they could have won or should have won, is my basically being like, oh, draft stock's improved, and everyone's like, oh, look how the mighty have fallen. And I'm like, yeah, at the same time too, we knew this wasn't going to last forever. And we also knew too that this process is just a long-term process. You can't think short-term in the NFL. You have to think of, a 5 to 10 year window of success. New England, obviously, look, they had a hop, skip, and a jump, and they got very lucky to get to where they got and winning 6 championships. But at the same time, too, you have to look at it from a logical standpoint of not how do they get back there, but how do they get back to being competitive? Because we've seen this happen before with a lot of teams where they have peaks and valleys, they have ups and downs, and right now it's down, and New England's just looking to get up. And how long that takes, or if they get there, I 100% agree with you. It's not just a quarterback away. It's not just like when Tom went to Tampa, and it's like, hey, they won a Super Bowl, Tom got there. Because we saw Tampa had all the pieces. No, New England doesn't have the pieces. New England's got to figure it out. They got to stay healthy. And like I said, too, they got to win a couple games that they're close games, and they got to steal a couple games. Kind of like what we saw from the Vikings last year. The Vikings went 11-0 and won-score games for a reason. This year, it hasn't gone their way. Giants, the same thing, too. I know I like to dunk on Daniel Jones a lot, and it gets the eye of some people on Twitter. But with the Giants, last year, everything fell the other way. It's kind of like the NFL season, in a sense. It's like playing poker. You're going to get some good hands, and you're going to get some bad hands. It's just, unfortunately, a hand lasts the whole season.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what you're saying, I think it's just more about the identity. We don't have an identity right now, and I think the identity, of course, there's sub things under that. I think we need to have an identity. We need to work on what we like. Okay, what do we do well? Here's the things we don't do well. And I'll be honest too. Like, look, me, and everybody that watches this has known me long enough, or most people have. Like, I'm a positive fan when it comes to, I trust my team. I trust their judgment. I trust Bill. I've always been like that. But that being said, this is the first instance where, not the first instance necessarily, but the major instance where it's affecting the overall team, right? Not just like, okay, like I had my issues with like Wes Welker not getting re-signed, things like that back in the day. But this is something that's legit affecting the overall team. Yep. So how do I trust that this organization is just going to plug in another quarterback and be okay? Like, so I think that a lot of people are asking for Bill's head. I'll be honest. I'll be completely honest. I don't know what the answer is. I just know what we're doing is not the answer. I'm not going to try to act like I have this powerful head, this powerful brain that just knows exactly what the answer is, because I don't have that. But is that taking GM rights away from Bill? Sure, maybe. Is it moving on from Bill altogether? I don't know. I don't know what that answer is right now.
My whole thing with the Bill stuff is it's about not moving on necessarily, but moving on. Let's call it that. We'll call it moving on. But it's moving on in the sense where it's right for both parties. It's kind of like us in the real world where, you know what? I know you recently. I don't know if you're still at the same company, but I know you left one store. But
I just left. Yeah, I left a different new company. Yeah, I left.
So you left. So that's the thing. Like, you loved what you did. You enjoyed your time there. It's like a job. You enjoyed your time there. But in a sense too, hey, you got to look at what's best for you. It's like that's what Robert Kraft has to do right now. What is best for the long-term health of this organization long after he goes? And I know that's a very weird thing to say, but look, Robert Kraft's not a young man. He's in his 80s. So it's like the same thing with the Dallas Cowboys too, where Jerry, it's kind of like, hey, you have to look out for the long-term future to when one day when you're not there anymore running it, because we all know Jerry Jones will probably be there up until his last days. So that's just my thing with it, where it's a healthy exit I feel like is needed, but at the same time, too, there's a small voice in my head saying I wouldn't be shocked to see him back next year.
Yeah, I think there just needs to be some kind of leash as far as the GM role, because I think coaching wise, I just think he's not adapting offensively wise. At least from what we can only see what maybe he's trying his best, and it is just the talent. I don't know, but it just from what we can tell, like he's just not. I mean, obviously the talent still goes back to him. So I think defensively he's fine. I would be if you told me today that he's staying in as head coach, but Kraft is bringing somebody in to help with the GM side, and that Bill still has a say, but like that there's someone that also has a say, that I'd probably be okay with that, just at least trusting it. But then if next year it's the same, we're in the same boat, then at that point you just have to part ways. But one thing I will say real quick about this whole thing is, once again, people are changing the narrative about Bill. This is just about Bill, not about where we're going to move on or not. All right, all that this, the whole time that Brady played and Bill played together, it was Bill Belichick and Brady was just a system guy. Like it kind of faded for most people, but people still held on to that argument. Second, Brady goes to Tampa and wins the championship. Now Bill can't coach. It was all Brady. Like that's what I hear from. I mean, not fans, not the educated fans, but the ones that just spit nonsense. Now it's Bill Belichick is nothing without Tom Brady. And listen, I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve criticism. We both have just agreed on that.
Yeah,
he does. He does deserve criticism, but at the same time, don't discredit everything that it took to tango. It took both of them, and it took both of them working. And I think that people just want that scapegoat. They want to be like, oh, it can't be both. It can't be both. But it actually can be both, because Brady wouldn't have had some of the greatest defenses if it wasn't for Belichick. So
that's one thing I like to drill. Their first 3 Super Bowls were all predicated on defense. People like to look at the Patriots, what they were from 10 years ago, because in the NFL, it's always that, what have you done for me lately? Like, only the real football nuts and heads look at the historian standpoint of the game, where it's like, look, if you look at those first 3 things, and also, too, I'm going to say this right now, Friday, February 16th, Apple TV, the documentary's coming out about the dynasty. You're going to learn a lot from there. I don't know, and I hope it's not what the Florida Gators one was. I feel like I was the only person in the world who actually enjoyed watching the Florida Gators doc, because I didn't look at it from the perspective of, oh, they're doing this for this. I just looked at it from, hey, this is cool. These guys love to play football, and it was a fun story to watch. So I feel like I hope they really not peel back the curtain fully, but we get like a basic understanding of, hey, this is what happened for 20 years. There is a book out that I preached on the show many times, The Dynasty by Jeff Benedict. Phil, I don't know if you've read it. If you haven't,
I haven't read it yet, but I want to. I know you talked about it. Yeah.
Fantastic book. Ask for it for Christmas. It's just a really good read, and you learn a lot of the ins and outs, and even that when Tom left, it wasn't an ugly divorce, that it was a mutual parting of ways. It was I have to do what's best for me and all this stuff right now. So instead of Bill Belichick saying I have to do what's best for me, it's more of a Robert Kraft doing what's best for him. And that's ultimately where this is going to go and where it's going to end up. And as for last night's game, look, it was great to see them get a win. If they lose out the rest of the season, go 3-14, it's what it is. I'm just hoping that 5 years from now, like not in the next 2 to 3 years, it's not in the same place, and that in 2 to 3 years, we kind of see what Detroit's going through right now. Like, look at Detroit Lions. 2 years ago, one of the worst teams in the league. Now they're one of the top teams in the league, and everyone looks at them. I know there's still some kinks there with their defense, but still, it's just one of those things where you want to see
competitive.
You want to see competitive. Ever since Tom left, that's all I've been asking for, is every Sunday to be competitive. And this year, sure, they've only won 3 games, but there's only been, I think, 3 of those games where they weren't really competitive. And that was the 2 blowout losses, Dallas and the Saints, and then what was the other one? The Miami Dolphin game. They were competitive, but then they let it get away from them. So that's how you view things, and that's just how I look at them. But this Sunday, we do have a full slate of football we got to talk about. And before I talk about the slate down below, I got to tell you guys about a little friend of ours, and that's Bodog. I preach it every time, guys, but if you scan the QR code that's in this video right now, Bodog will match up to $400 on your first deposit. It's a collaboration by myself and the Down by 2 podcast. So Bodog for all your NFL betting needs this coming Sunday. Remember, guys, please play responsibly. But anyway, Phil, we get things started Sunday in New Orleans in a stadium you and I both have been in the Superdome, where the Saints are playing the Panthers.
Yep.
One of the best places. The only thing I really have to say about this game is I'm just more intrigued to see what do the Saints do, because they're a team that they just keep tripping over their own feet. They're walking with two left feet right now.
And one thing I'll say about the Saints too, that and I'll even talk to a fellow former coworker now, but a coworker at the time that like she was just adamant about Derek Carr has this attitude problem. He doesn't like take accountability, and I was like, no, like some of these receivers are literally quitting on it. Like from what I had seen, but more and more lately, I'm like Derek Carr. I'm seeing it now. Like I'm starting to like I liked Derek Carr. I was a big Derek Carr guy, but like I'm starting to see like it is very obvious he's not taking the accountability that you want out of your quarterback. So obviously there's injuries and stuff with the quarterback. You know, that's just been the was the theme of the year in general. So if you don't have quarterback problems, you might want to hold on tight until the end of the year, because it might be you next. But yeah, so like with the Saints, I mean, the Saints are kind of what they are. I mean, the Panthers, I could go on all day about the fact that you just drafted a rookie quarterback and you fire your head coach. Not even the year it has passed yet. I know a lot of Panthers fans didn't like Frank Reich, but I think not even giving him a year, not even getting him 2 years was ridiculous. But we'll see how maybe I'll be proven wrong, and when they hire a better coach, I don't know. But
the Panthers is a weird one, because it's like I feel like their coach is their owner likes to run it like a business and not a football team. It's like, hey, let the football guys do the football stuff, and you just sit back, shut up, and let them do them. Put trust in your guys. It's like it's literally a boss who doesn't trust his employees, and he's micromanaging every single little thing. That's what the Carolina Panthers are right now.
It seems like, yeah.
And with the Saints, though, it's kind of the same thing where, look, they keep doing this every year where they keep pushing back the envelope. Oh, we're gonna do the salary cap stuff. Every year it's always there in salary cap help, but they push it back. I think you either have to do one or two things for this offseason if you're the Saints. You either have to, and also I say this too, and I say this lightly, but I think missing the playoffs for them is better long-term than it is short-term, because you're only setting yourself up for failure, I think, whoever wins this division, because all four teams right now, especially the Panthers, aren't in a good spot. But with the Saints, you either have to retool it and get rid of some other guys, or you know what, you have to just say, fuck it, we're going all in and we're going to try to win. That's what they have to do. You have to find the right quarterback. You just can't find like a Derek Carr. You have to go out there, big game hunting, go and, try to get like a Kirk Cousins in free agency. Go get someone who's of meaningful value, because they still have a good defense. They kind of are where the Patriots were in the last couple of seasons, where it's like, hey, they have some pieces there, but it's not a complete team yet. So with the Saints, I don't know what to think with them. But as for this game, I think they win, but I like Carolina to cover the 6. I think the Saints win, but it's a close one, because NFC South football, as you know, as someone who lives in NFC South territory, it's always either one of two things. It's either a blowout or it's a very close game that comes down to the wire. So I think that's ultimately what Sunday is going to be. I think it's going to be a low-scoring, close game, like a 20-17.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think the Saints win. Is Derek Carr playing?
He hasn't cleared protocol yet. He still is questionable, but I feel like if he's questionable on Friday, and especially with the concussion word in there, I can't see him playing. He may, but I think it'd be better if he didn't.
Yeah, and I think Jameis will get enough reps to get the job done, in my opinion. Yeah. I just was curious. But yeah, I think the Saints win too. I think the Carolina could cover. I don't know. I don't want to go one way or the other, but I wouldn't be shocked if they did, like you said.
Yeah. And then next we have Baltimore versus LA, which I view this the same light, where Baltimore, and as we're coming closer to 300, Phil had one of the earliest, probably the earliest very hot take that came true, which was Baltimore losing in the 2020 playoffs to the Tennessee Titans on divisional weekend. But Baltimore's looking like they're going to be right back there again, maybe getting the 1 seed, maybe getting the bye. But you have a Rams team all of a sudden that's just turned it around and gotten incredibly hot. So, like, I feel like the Ravens are going to win this game. I just don't know how confident I am in that they're going to go in there and just wipe the floor with them completely.
Yeah, let me tell you, of all the teams that are like, no team has been great. Kansas City losing last week to I can't think of who they lost to. Thank you, Green Bay, which Green Bay looks good too. So there's half and half on that.
Yeah.
But my point is that of all the teams that are, like the Bills are struggling, like all the ones that the Bengals don't have Burrow, like there's, even though they won last week, but like now you have the Ravens who are kind of I say quietly, maybe that's not the right word, but like they're kind of quietly the best team going into the playoffs currently. Like obviously we still have a few weeks left to see what happens. So that I'm very intrigued to see what that is. I don't know. I honestly haven't watched enough Ravens games to see like how their defense is playing, but yeah, I think the Ravens are in a good spot right now. I do think they're playing the Chargers or the Rams.
They're playing
LA,
the Rams. They are playing
Rams.
the Rams.
Okay,
The Chargers are playing the Broncos. We'll talk about that game in a bit.
Okay. So yeah, sorry, I forgot honestly. But yeah, so they're playing the Rams, and the Rams are right now pretty, I'd say mediocre. I mean, they're good. They're not bad. They're not good, but yeah, I definitely think the Ravens win this. By how much? I don't know. I'm not confident in saying that because I do think the Rams offense, when playing well, is still pretty good, especially if you have fantasy. Shout out to those starting playoffs this week. But yeah, so I think the Ravens win. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Also, if I seem half distracted to everyone, I apologize. But Otani Watch is kind of taking over my life right now. For a very
did he get signed? Did he get signed?
No, we don't know.
Okay,
he's not in Toronto.
Okay.
He's in Southern California right now. So there was a plane that was going from Santa Ana to Toronto. Everyone assumed it was him. It's just everything's going crazy. So if you see me distracted, that's why I'm trying to get as much.
I don't blame you. I was looking it up today, but I haven't looked back since.
If it breaks during the podcast while we're talking about the Bengals and the Colts, great. Which Bengals and Colts, this is the very interesting game because you have two teams that are in the thick of the playoff hunt. Both starting quarterbacks are out. We're not getting Joe Burrow and Anthony Richardson. We're getting Jake Browning against Gardner Minshew. I'm going to say this right now. The Bengals impressed me enough to where I want to go with this. I like this bet. Bengals to win, but the over to hit because both teams' defenses can be questionable at times, have a lot of offensive firepower on both sides of the ball. The total right now is only at 43.5. So I love like a 27-24 style football game. Like nothing too crazy. Not like Texas, Oklahoma, but like I could see a game similar to what we saw last night in terms of scoring. I know obviously last night was only 21-18, but that's similar parallel, where they're just teams are trading shots because also too, both these border backup quarterbacks are more competent than the ones that were playing last night, even though we still love you, Bailey.
All right. This made me think of something. I got to ask, did you hit the over for last night?
I did not bet the over.
What was it set at too, by the way? Because that seems
like 30. It was like 30 and a half.
Easy. Yeah, no, I know it was set at 30, but like, what could you win? Like, what was the odds, right?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
The only
I'd have hit that over all day on that. Like, the odds are just too.
I hit 3 bets last night though. I hit 3. I bet New England to win because I was like, you know what, let's just do it. I did Zeke for the first touchdown of the game because I was like, you know what, I feel
there you go.
Okay. And also too, I got the birthday boy. I got Hunter Henry because I'm like, with all the receivers that were out, everyone was like, oh, like Tyquan Thornton could do this, or like Jalen Reagor, and I'm just like,
not a bad bet.
Hunter Henry, he's been quiet, and he got 2 touchdowns last night, so there you have that. But with this game though, it's interesting because it can go either way. But I feel like the Colts are that team where it's kind of like they need that. When teams lose, like pump the brakes, where it's kind of like, hey guys, like. You need a setback loss, especially too if you want to be competitive in December. I feel like that's the other reason why I want to go Cincinnati here.
Yeah, I think one other thing for the actual game because I was just wanting to mention that, but
no problem.
But Jake Browning, I'll have to say, like he's kind of fit the perfect backup role. You don't expect anything to, you don't expect him to like shock the world or anything like that. But he's playing a competent quarterback, which is what your backup should be. Like you can't expect like Joe Burrow behind the scenes. Or right behind Joe Burrow, but I think he's playing good enough, and I think I also think the Bengals could win this game, and actually I think they will. The Colts are just kind of like they kind of beat up on some of the teams, but then it's like when it's time for them to really show it, they don't really do that great, at least so far that I've seen. So I'm gonna go with the Bengals for sure.
Yeah, I'm just the same thing too, where it's like Bengals. The Bengals are a team, they know how to win. They were in the Super Bowl not even 2 years ago. So I feel like as long as – I'll say this too about this game. Whoever wins the turnover battle is going to win this game.
Yeah.
Quarterback ball security is going to be huge in this football game on Sunday. But we stay in the AFC North, for this next game where Cleveland plays Jacksonville. And I don't know what Trevor Lawrence is going to do in this game. I don't know if he's going to play or not. But because of that reason – I like Cleveland in like a very low-scoring, ugly football game. I like a muck it up 13-10 football game. Like I think this game has the potential to be like what everyone thought last night was going to be. Where everyone was like, this game's going to suck. Don't even watch it. I think this game has the potential to be that.
Well, like I've said it for the last probably about my last month. Like, if Myles Garrett isn't at the top of your list for defense, well, for MVP, like, I know they won't give it to a defensive player, but this might be the 1 year with all the quarterbacks going out is a possibility. And I'm like, bro, if the Browns make the playoffs, he's a big factor in that. And I think the Browns defense, like, going up against, I don't think Trevor Lawrence will end up playing, but if he does, then cross that bridge when it comes. But I think the Browns defense is just too good right now. I think they're, like you said, they're going to squeak out. Like, their offense is still struggling, of course, but I think they're gonna end up winning this game. And I think the Browns, if they make the playoffs, like, you can't not look at Myles Garrett.
I'm sure some people will give him consideration, but at the end of the day, you always go. I feel like if there's a non-quarterback that does win it, it'll be Tyreek Hill, just because of what he's doing is historic. Not knocking Myles Garrett, but Myles Garrett definitely is in the depoy conversation for sure. I think it's him, TJ Watt, and Micah Parsons. Those are your 3 defensive player of the year candidates right there.
I would agree.
Yeah, that's all I really got to say about it. I do think Myles Garrett, he could get MVP consideration, but I feel like Cleveland would have to win the division in order for him to do that. They would. I think if they get in as a wild card, I don't know, but if they get in and they win the division, or if for some, I don't think they'll get the 1 seed just because of their. I think they're already at 5 losses, so Baltimore would have to stumble along the way. But if Cleveland, if Cleveland wins the division, if they let it get away from them, if Baltimore lets it get away from them, and Cleveland wins the division, then I think there's a world where it could happen. But at the end of the day, I still think it's going to go. There's a few people I have in mind. Like, I think Dak Prescott. I think Brock Purdy.
Hurts is also.
I think Hurts is also in there, but I don't think he will. I don't think he should get it. But that's just me. But that's just that. But we do have another exciting game Sunday. See, we talked about the Lions earlier. We have the Lions playing the Bears. Last time these two teams played, Chicago was a 9.5-point underdog. They're only a 3-point underdog this time. I'm going to say this right now. I don't know if the Lions win, if the Bears win, but I like the Bears to cover the spread. And a fun little bet I love for this game, David Montgomery, his first game back in Chicago. I think he's going to run it into the house for a touchdown.
Yeah, that sounds like a good bet. Yeah, I wish the Lions and Gibbs, they frustrate me with that. But because if you have Gibbs in fantasy, you understand what I'm going through. But yeah, like, I agree with you. Like, I think the game, like, this seems like two teams that play each other. Like, did Fields play the last game?
Yeah,
he did.
Oh, wait.
Or did he not?
Yes, he did. It was a few weeks ago. I'm pretty sure he played in that game. Okay. You can, we can kind of ramble and go, but I'm like 95% sure.
I am too, but you can check on that. But yeah, I think like I said, the Bears can keep it close, but I mean, the Bears are kind of an interesting one, but
16 for 23, 169 yards throwing, and a touchdown, and a QBR of 105.2. So Justin Fields did play in that game.
But he's not playing in this one. He's out, right? He's still out, right?
No, I'm pretty sure he's playing.
Oh, he is back. Okay, all right. Sorry, I've been
the only people on
some things, but
the main injury protocols for this team is Tyler Scott, the wide receiver, who's questionable with the hamstring, and then Yannick Ngakoue, who's questionable with a knee. Besides that, Justin Fields is back and healthy, so they're fine in that metrics.
So I would agree with what you said then, for sure, if Fields is playing, because not that, I'm saying that I love Fields or anything like that, but I do think that, he provides something that the Bears wouldn't have without him.
The defense for the Bears, too, has gotten a lot better over the last few weeks, ever since they did fire their defensive coordinator. He actually mysteriously left back in September. Their defense has gotten a lot better. There has been a lot of improvement there. So Matt Eberflus is doing really well with that defense. I think he's a guy that he's going to lose his job in about a month, but he will get back on his feet. Someone's going to see, hey, look what he did with the Bears defense, and then he'll be a defensive coordinator on like a high-caliber team, get another head coaching gig, because everyone does. This is how the NFL works. You go back, you hone in a DC. It's a never-ending cycle where someone's going to see that and be like, hey, let's hire him. And then you realize like 2 years into it, no, not our guy. Let's fire him. That's exactly what's going to happen. Like, Matt Eberflus is going to, go be the DC for like the Philadelphia Eagles next year and just turn that defense around for what Sean Desai, who was with the Bears, did with them. Because I think Sean Desai could get a head coaching gig, or even if Dan Quinn becomes head coach in Dallas, why not call up Eberflus to go be the DC down in Dallas? So that's how I view it. But that's why I think this game will be close to it. Mainly, I think the Bears defense has enough to keep them in it, but I think the Lions offense is better than the Bears offense. So that's where I think the win comes from ultimately, with not trusting the Lions defense, but I feel like the Lions offense can do enough to where I feel like the Bears offensively, I feel like Detroit will know how to stop them in crunch moments, because we haven't seen Justin Fields win a game in crunch moments.
I agree. No, I agree.
A wonderful little soliloquy. But we have two NFC matchups this weekend. We have Atlanta taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going Tampa here because if New Orleans wins and Tampa wins, you have 3 teams deadlocked at 6 and 7 for the division, and it causes chaos. It's like in the NFL, you got to root for chaos, and Tampa after this, Tampa still has to play New Orleans. Atlanta still has to play New Orleans. So it's going to make for a very exciting sprint to the finish if all 3 teams are tied. And I think they're all tied in divisional play too, because I know basically every team's both teams have beaten the Saints here, but the Saints could sweep the Panthers this weekend. So they're all kind of like, I don't know what the divisional records are per se, but it causes chaos, and who doesn't enjoy chaos?
Yeah, and I think that I lost my train of thought. No, I think that I agree. I think we could be looking at another team to end up, or another team to be under 500, making the playoffs again. So it's going to be a fight to the death in that division for sure. I was looking to see what the what their division records are. So Atlanta's 3-0 right now in the division, so that's big on them. And then Tampa Bay's 2-1. So this could be even it up even more if Tampa Bay was to win. I actually like Tampa Bay to win too. So that's gonna, like you said, create the chaos that we were just talking about. So
that's it. I'm rooting for the Bucks purely off of chaos. That's the only thing I got with this game, because also too with Atlanta, it's like that Simpsons meme where it's like, get ready, guys, he's about to do something stupid. That's what the Atlanta Falcons are in a nutshell. When it's like they have to win a game they should win, they'll crumble under their own pressure. So that's the other reason why I want to go for this. And then Jets versus Houston, who the Jets may have a worse quarterback situation with Zach Wilson going back in. I like the Houston Texans to rebound. I know a lot of people are thinking like Jets here and there, but actually no, wait, never mind. Houston won last week. Never mind. I like Houston just to rebound and kind of Houston to state their claim. And, let's change it from rebound to state their claim against a Jets team that they should beat, but by how much is the ultimate question.
Yeah, I agree. I think Houston definitely wins this game. I think the Jets are in shambles right now when it comes to quarterback play. I do think I don't really understand why you just stick with Zach Wilson at this point. Like you're at this point in the season, you're clearly going to go with him. So I don't know. The change didn't really make sense. You're picking a guy that rarely starts. So
it's the ultimate criticisms, because look at the Jets, look at the quarterbacking situations in New York right now. Whenever Zach Wilson does something wrong, like you have Zach Wilson where it's like, oh, this, or Tim Boyle, this, he gets cut 36 hours after the game. Then you got Mr. Italian, New Jersey, Tommy DeVito, where you know what, they're having him with his chicken cutlets and his raviolis and all this other stuff. So it's 2 totally different quarterback dynamics, because no one knew what the Giants were going to be this year, and Tommy DeVito's kind of this like unsung hero, if you will. But then you have Zach Wilson where it's like, hey, you're supposed to be the savior. Jets were supposed to be good this year, but as we all know, the Jets just, they always find a way to screw it up. This year was unfortunate because of Aaron Rodgers' injury, but it's ultimately for them. They're in that same boat where, like, look, you can't look at short term with this team. You got to think long term. You got to think past Aaron Rodgers, because who knows? Hell, who knows if Aaron Rodgers plays next year? I think he does, but at the same time, too, he could go trip magic mushrooms in the forest again and be like, I'm retiring. So you don't know what to expect with the Jets. It's just one of those things where if you're the Jets organization, you have to have an answer out of Aaron Rodgers before March 15th or when free agency starts, so you can kind of go and be like, hey, do we need to go get someone? Do we need to trade for someone? Because that's even the other thing, too, where it's like, with Joe Flacco, it's like, hey, Flacco was here last year. Why do we not bring him back this year? It's this whole thing where it's like Aaron Rodgers kind of has the organization by the balls, and that's literally what it is. Meanwhile, with Houston, I know everyone out there likes to say Dan Campbell for head coach of the year because of how he's turned around Detroit, but Dan Campbell's been expected to do what he's done. Meanwhile, if the Houston Texans make the playoffs, going from the 2nd overall pick in the pit of mediocrity to making the playoffs, I think DeMeco Ryans gets coach of the year. Him or Shane Steichen.
He definitely should.
Yeah, that's the thing. Coach of the year is always a first-year head coach who exceeds expectations greatly. Meanwhile, San Francisco and Seattle, we've got a barn burner here. You've got a San Francisco team who are, I think, the best team in the NFL right now. They are the best team in the NFL. We saw they went into Philly last week, and they just took care of them cleanly. And you have a Seattle team who is very, very desperate. I don't love the spread number of 12. I think it could get covered. But I love San Francisco in this spot just to state their claim. Because here's the other thing, too. Playing in Levi's Stadium, San Francisco is just another animal there, and I think we're going to continue to see that on Sunday afternoon in the stadium that Gene's built in Levi Stadium.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the thing to look at with the Niners and really any team, I always say this, and I'll repeat it till the day I die, but that you look at like a 3-game like window each time, like okay, 3-game window, next 3-game window, next 3-game, and I think the Niners, like you could look at the window where they lost 2 straight, or maybe even 3 straight, but I think it was 2 straight. They lost 2 straight. There was 3 straight. Okay,
Cleveland, Minnesota, Cincinnati.
It's Cincinnati. Okay, the Cincinnati one is the one I forgot. So anyway, so the 3 straight there, but you could look at that Niners team, but now look at this Niners team who's rolling. They're back in the groove. So I think you just can't focus too much on the past is what I'm getting at, and I think that the Niners are definitely the hottest team right now for sure. And that could end, that could change, and then come back. So I don't think Philly's done. I don't. A lot of people are, oh yeah, Philly has no chance now, but I think it was a good game for Philly to wake up, and I mean Philly. We'll be going to that game in a minute, but they got a big game this week too.
We'll get into that in a sec, but with San Francisco, it's the same thing where it's like keep stating your claim, make a hot run into January because ultimately February 11th, you want to be playing football. That's 100% what the San Francisco 49ers are about right now. Vegas and Minnesota, a game that could be viewed as mid, but a game at the same time too where I trust Vegas more than I trust Josh Dobbs. I just think the Pasternaut experiment. It's kind of like a lot of backup quarterbacks. Like, you know how right now Tommy DeVito's a folklore hero in New York. I feel like eventually he's going to have a game where we are reminded, hey, Tommy DeVito is why Tommy DeVito is. He's not this like franchise savior. He's this, he's going to have a comeback to earth game. Josh Dobbs had his comeback to earth game 2 weeks ago against the Bears. This game's going to be ugly and sloppy, and I don't know why, but I like the Raiders here. I like the Raiders at plus money, unless Justin Jefferson returns and just, wins some motherfuckers in their fantasy football leagues. This is the thing right now. He's going to, he'll come back and he'll put up like 4 receptions for like 180 yards and like 2 touchdowns, and he's putting up Brandy Moss numbers, and he wins people fantasy football leagues, and that's why he went first overall this year. But I'm going to go off on a tangent for a second. So I want to ask you a question. 2024, you have the first pick. Who are you taking for fantasy football?
That's tough.
I got 2 guys in mind.
I have 2 guys as well. Honestly, because of how this season's going and how I know how he's doing in my fantasy league, I have to kind of I'm making excuses, but it all depends on how they flow and how people are projected to go. But I think there's 2 people. I think Chris McCaffrey and I think Tyreek Hill.
Those are my 2.
There you go. Because I think Tyreek Hill has saved. Now I have Tua also, so that helps. In one of my leagues, another league I only have Tua, but yeah, I think Tyreek Hill is definitely up there on the list, and I think Christian McCaffrey is he's proven longevity now. He's proven consistency. Like, how could you not? And actually, funny enough, in a league, one of my fantasy leagues this year, I had to draft on my phone on an app because I had plans, so I had to also do it on the app. And ESPN's app is terrible. Anyone that doesn't know that, so I thought it was showing me that Justin Jefferson was not available. I think I had the 3rd pick, 2nd or 3rd pick. I think it might have been 3rd. And so I was going for Justin Jefferson, but because it said I couldn't, even though he was there, I don't know what happened. I picked Christian McCaffrey, so it worked out in that sense because I wanted Justin Jefferson. I'm like, why is it not letting me pick him? It doesn't even show. But for some reason, it wouldn't let me pick him, so I picked Christian McCaffrey. So that worked out in my favor this year. But
he was going first overall in a lot of fantasy football leagues. So yeah, my first overall pick this year, I had Diggs and Lamb, who I've traded both of them away, but I now hold. If there's a draft pick league, so I now hold in a league next year. I have a 1st, I have 2 seconds, and I have 2 4ths. So that's why I'm looking at like for the long term of my team because I'm kind of like in the middle of the pack. I'm 6 and 7 right now. But back to this game. Look, like I said, I like Vegas to cover. I'm not saying I like them to win. I like Vegas to cover the +3. But I like Justin Jefferson to have a day. I think he's going to come back and remind everyone, hey guys, I'm Justin Jefferson and I'm really good at football.
Is he for sure playing this year?
Yeah, he's for sure playing. He's for sure playing.
Oh, he's playing. Oh, okay. All right. I didn't even see. Like I said, I've been out on the loop on who's playing, who's not. I guess.
Yeah. No, he's been officially activated off IR. The Vikings released like a hype video. He's going to be in the lineup on Sunday.
Okay, well, that's good. I still think I like the Raiders though. I still think the Raiders win this one.
So I'm gonna flip the script here. I'm gonna the game that's next is the crown jewel of the weekend, but we're going or one of the crown jewels. I'm gonna go to the next game quickly. Chargers and Broncos. I'm going to say this right now. I do not know why the Chargers are favored here. Denver's a team that's on the bounce back. We saw it last week. The Chargers did not look good. I know they won. They did not look good. I'm sorry, Justin Herbert's going to waste right now in LA. They need new coaching in there. He needs receivers. The Chargers just need a lot. Like, they got lucky that like Bailey Zappi kind of screwed up and like the offensive line didn't help him out. But apart from that, like, I like the Broncos here.
It's funny that I'm promise you guys that are watching, I'm not just agreeing with Griff because he's saying this, but the second you said it, I was like, because I'm going Broncos. Like, I was 100% picking the Broncos. I just think that their defense is playing pretty well.
Yes.
I know that they gave up that 70-point game early in the season. I get that, but I think it's all about what have you done for me lately? What's the last, like I said, I look at a 3-game window, and I think the Broncos look way better than the Chargers look. And it seems like the Broncos do tend to play the Chargers well too. So
that's the other thing too. Divisional teams always know each other best. Flip it now to the game that's one of the better games of the day. Kansas City taking on Buffalo. Buffalo has a lot of controversy surrounding them. I don't know if you saw yesterday the comments surrounding the Sean McDermott and Al Qaeda, stuff like that.
I saw something about that. Yeah, I saw something.
He apparently he basically made a thing about like how they
worked it or something, right?
And stuff like that. Yeah. It's really messed up comments. But I'm going to say this right now. I'm going with Buffalo in this game. I know it sounds crazy to fade Patrick Mahomes coming off a loss. But here's the thing. Buffalo is coming off a really bad loss. You have a desperate team in a desperate situation to make the playoffs. The window is there for them to be open. They go up there and win. All the talk about the 9/11 stuff gets erased. But there's a catch to this. If Kansas City wins this game, it's just going to be crumbling more on Buffalo, and Buffalo ultimately has been one of the more disappointing teams of this year. So for Buffalo, it's a chance just to rewrite what you've gone through so far, because if you look at all their games recently, barely beat the Giants, lost to New England, where he made Mac Jones have Mac Jones' best game of the season.
Yeah.
Narrowly beat the Bucs, lost to the Bengals, lost to the Broncos, beat the Jets, but then you lost to the Eagles. And that Eagles game is a game the Eagles game they should have had. So that's where I'm looking at this, where I'm just like, what was I going to say? This game, this is where I think this is where Buffalo gets the redemption story. This is the Buffalo game. This could ultimately be the game, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself. This could be the game that really turns their season around, because if they go into Kansas City and win, it's this sense of, hey, who's stopping us? And also, too, I'll say this in the NFL, there's nothing more desperate than a team that has nothing to lose. They've got nothing to lose at this point. They have their dignity on the line. Like, Buffalo needs to win this game.
And I agree with that. I definitely, don't get me wrong, I agree with what you're saying. I think you made some great points on Buffalo and also Kansas City. But I'm going with Andy Reid off of a loss. I'm going with Patrick Mahomes off of a loss. I think the Chiefs win this game. But I will say this about this game. Because Bills, like I said, until you prove me that you can show up in one of these big games, I know that the Eagles and Bills game was close, but until you can show that you can close one of these games out here recently, I'm not going to trust you. But I will say this, does this game just not feel like it should feel? Like, it should feel like we're two powerhouses that we're going to see in a rematch later in the playoffs, but that's not what we're getting this time. We're kind of getting two teams that are very much, maybe not a lot underperforming was when we're talking about the Chiefs, but both teams are very much not where we thought they would be.
The Chiefs are underperforming in the sense of they're held to that Patriot bar where it's kind of like, hey, we expect you at this time of the year to be just finishing all the opponents you have. Like, there was years with New England. Like, remember the Miami Miracle loss where they just had this devastating loss? They have these other games too, like the game against Philadelphia that you let get by you. There are certain losses where it's kind of like, guys, those are games you got to have. You got to win those games. Even the Lions game opening day too, it's the same thing too. And even the game against the Denver Broncos, which got me eliminated from survival, there's certain games in there with Kansas City, you look at them and you're like, you got to win that. You're number 15 for a reason. Like, for example, Travis Kelce, will he be there next year? I don't know. I'm not trying to start stuff, but at the same time too, he wants to get into acting. His world into Hollywood is growing. So with Travis Kelce, it's just another world where it's like, hey, this could be his last year. We don't know. So for the Chiefs, like I said, I'm not confident in my Buffalo pick. I just think that a desperate team, like Buffalo's more desperate than Kansas City. Kansas City's just because Kansas City's going to win the division. They're going to do what they have to do, but we'll ultimately see where it goes. And then for Sunday Night Football, this is the game I feel like ultimately can decide the division. This is the game right here. And I'm going to say this because I don't love this pick. I hate this pick because the other team's coming off a bullying loss. I like the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, this is a tough game. So I feel your hesitation because when making my picks through like the Yahoo League that I'm in, where you make your picks, like I was even doing the same thing. I sat there and I wondered. I was like, this is a game that Dallas should win because Philly won the last one, and you would think they're both at the top, like they're two top teams. Like they're gonna switch. They're gonna split the games. But something just tells me Philly. So, I mean, I just think Philly. Yeah.
I'm not confident in my Dallas pick. Like I just think like they're a good team at home. They're everything else. So like with Dallas, it's kind of like hold your breath and count to 10.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Or it's that. It's basically it's not comfortable. You don't like it. Basically, I'll hold your breath if someone let out a stinky fart. That's essentially what it is. When someone's like there, you're like, fuck.
Right.
That's what the pick is. That's what it is. Next game. So Monday Night Football is weird this week. We have two games. That we're ending with.
Why are they doing it this way? That's weird.
I don't know. I looked at this. I thought I was doing a double take because I thought it was only Packers and Giants. Yeah. I'm going to say this. I like the Giants. I think the Packers looked good last week against Kansas City, but 6.5 I think is too many points. I like the Giants to cover. I like the Packers to win. I like the Giants to keep it close. Give Tommy Cutlets another week and know, hey, how you doing? How's your mother?
How you doing?
Hey.
No, I'm gonna go with Green Bay though, but I see your points. But
Green Bay to win, New York to cover. That's my pick.
Oh, you got Green Bay to win. Okay,
yeah,
all right.
So yeah, cover.
Okay, I don't know about the cover, but I'm going with Green Bay to win for sure.
I'm the same thing in the Monday Night Football. We're keeping it short and sweet. Miami, just don't overthink it. The Miami Dolphins are a good team. Tennessee is terrible on the road, and Miami's a team that they got a crash course collision to finish the year because Christmas Eve they play the Dallas Cowboys, and then they play the Baltimore Ravens, and then they play the Buffalo Bills. So Miami's got a couple layups coming up with the Titans, the Jets. That's about it. Like I got nothing else to say about this game.
You said it earlier about Kansas City. These are games you got to win. You just win and move on. So Miami.
That's it. It's a 12-point spread. Yeah. It's 12 points. Everyone's thinking that you're going to go in there and just whoop the Titans. Who knows if that happens, but I think this could be a track meet kind of football game. But anyway, guys, Phil,
I agree.
Episode 266, my friend. I don't think you were – last time I think you were on, we were in the 180s or the 190s.
I was about to say, I don't think I've been in the 200s yet.
Yes, so you're in the 200 club right now. This was literally episode 266 in the bag. Shout out to Randy for making this all happen. Randy, Randy,
you're a legend. Always a legend.
When he wants a guest, he's going to tweet it out. So we got to say that just basically saying, asking you shall receive, Randy. I was thinking of a million title names for the episode, but that's what we're going with. You know what? Just, ask Randy, and you shall receive. Anyway, guys, enjoy week 14. Can you believe it's already week 14 of the NFL season?
Bro, I can't even believe it's December. I can't, bro.
Before we know it, we'll be at the Super Bowl, and then it's the off season. It's just like, what happens?
Talking about the draft again. Yep. Nope, you're
don't like it. But anyway, guys, for Nytmare 10 once again, I'm Griff. Thank you very much for listening to another episode.
Thank you, guys.
Of YWC Football Talk.